Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Now, I want to cover another issue in this whole radionic consciousness machine area, and that, of course, is wishing machines. Now, this has been something that have now been around for about 20 years, believe it or not. It was made popular by Harry Stein from his famous book, Mind Machines You Can Build. Now, Harry Stein was an interesting character. Apparently, wrote some many scientific books and papers. He was a literal rocket scientist, from what I understand. He also wrote some science fiction and considered himself a man of science. He has now passed away. He's been dead for quite some years now. And his book you can pretty much find it around the web in different places if you look for it. Since he has passed away, it is kind of public domain. So the whole idea is that you can grab these out there to read his book. And this is really the premier book that we recommend to people to read that get into this subject matter. Those people who have all access membership through the guild can access it through us in our library. So this is a very important book written from a scientific viewpoint. Now, what is a wishing machine? Now, I had some minor contact with Harry. He didn't, being the schmientist that he was, I wrote to him, of course, this is 30 years ago, I wrote to him on my occult science letterhead. This is before the internet. When they had paper going back and forth. So the whole idea is I wrote to him expressing, because he stated in his book that he would be there to help people and that he would work with them with this technology. So I wrote to him saying, hey, yeah, I'd like to work with you. I have this organization. We're involved in this. And he wrote back to me saying that this has nothing to do with the occult. Well, it doesn't? Well, occult means hidden, by the way. And as we all know, occult, which has always been working on magic, science, alchemy, all the things that some people don't really understand what magic is, the movement of energetic informational fields, and the using of different types. They could be gods, spirits, etc., which has all been 100% verified and proven now, by the way, over 150 years, and it's just countless experiences. But of course, back then, the term occult was still something that was frowned upon, even though you see nothing but Satanism everywhere that everybody just shrugs off now, which is interesting. But we've always covered everything, because why leave any stone unturned? So he wrote back to me, has nothing to do with the occult. So I wrote back to him again saying, because I had started a new division of the advanced sciences, hey, let's work together. And of course, never heard from him again. So that's the kind of closed-minded people they are. But in his book, it details that he made a Hieronymus-type radionic machine, one of the few machines that seem to have a fair amount of proof behind them as working. And Hieronymus lived to be 92. So the whole idea is that at least he was using his own technology and lived past the common span of life that we consider here, while most radionic practitioners die before the common age, which technically is 86 or so is when the average person dies. Now, there is a general figure of 78 now, but this is not health-based. It's based in accidents, drug addictions, other things going on. But the bottom line is that people have been living into their 80s quite commonly. And you would think that alternative health practitioners would be able to make it to 80 without a problem, while most radionic people didn't. I don't know how long Stein lived, but I don't think it was too much past his high 70s, but I'm not sure. I do know it was not into his 90s or even into his late 80s. So, as usual. But he popularized the term wishing machine, and he developed a simplistic or small Hieronymus type physical machine and a symbolic machine. Now, the plans for these machines are in the actual book, My Machines You Can Build. So he talks about it. He also talks about the research he did. Apparently, he was able to cure his daughter of acne, and worked on a few other things. We just talked about this whole science, which he considered a science again, which is interesting. He popularized that, and these were not. There was a particular type of wishing machine, and his design there using two plates, which even his electronic design was faulty though, because he had two copper plates that you were supposed to put a photograph in between that had electricity going through them. Well, if you did that, you would short the machine out. As usual with everything, here's a rocket scientist whose plans don't quite get it. But the whole idea is this was just simply an amplifying thought form machine, which is what we're talking about as your classical wishing type machine, because you're just wishing. This is not a radionic machine. Now, there's people coming out who have been saying that they're selling wishing machines, and they are dial machines. Well, there is no such thing as a wishing machine that's a dial machine. That then turns into a radionic machine. If you can dial in these special types of non-Hertzian frequencies, it now becomes a radionic machine, because that's what radionic machines are. Now, wishing machines have always been basically a plate where you place a photograph on, and then you send energy psychically into the machine. And there are ways of doing this at higher levels. When we made these machines, they actually used handles. The handles then, you hold the handles to send the energy better into the machine. And of course, we had a headband. These are two things that you connected yourself to it so that you could send stronger fields into the machine and possibly catch any kind of magnetic electronic energies coming from, because your body puts out all these energies, and we're really not sure how much information is in these. We do know that basic psychic energy fields, informational energetic fields, are not Hertzian in nature, but are there some that are? Well, quite possibly there is, and why overlook this? So we always have connected and have liked to do that, and I think there's validity to that. We try and keep physical realities going as well as the non-physical realities going as well. So you cover both areas, and there are actually frequencies that come out of your brain, mind, etc. Your brain is constantly shooting signals. This is what keeps you functioning. When these stop, it's called a seizure, and your brain turns off, stops firing these kind of like, you could call them little lightning bolts of sorts that are constantly firing off. This is what keeps everything going, because you're transferring. Well, there's got to be a certain nature of these that hasn't been discovered by schmientists who, I don't know what's going on. So there has to be a nature of these. So ignoring those and only keeping things in the pure energetic field, I think subtle energetic fields, subtle energy physics fields alone is kind of foolish. So why not use all these other things that are coming off of you, because these are actual frequencies that can be measured. EKGs, well, that's for your heart, but I mean, there are, which escapes me at this point, you put them on your head and they can sense the what's happening with the energies that are actually going around in your mind. So, now, these do have energies, they do carry signals, they do some higher energetic functions, so we incorporate those. But his machines didn't do that. His machines were plain and what most people did was make one of these symbolic machines. Now, symbolic machines are exactly what IGOS sigils are about. We put these patterns, these shaped vibrational energy patterns, stacked on top of each other in a particular sigil form. And there's many things in there. We stack things together. And these all then energize a particular area of interest. Let's say it's wealth or money. Well, we put in energetic symbols that will stimulate success, money, etc. There could be one for protection, etc. So what you see with our sigils are generally things to look relatively pleasing, but these are not the images that are producing the energies per se. there are hundreds, sometimes thousands of images underneath there. So this is what you're calling your symbolic shape of vibrational energies. So it's the actual, and these are one-dimensional in nature. But we have proven that these work. You can do this in many ways yourself. So by proving that these energies are energetic in nature, you connect to them to empower what you're doing. Because everything in life is about manifesting. Manifesting is about empowering it. If you just sit there and just think about something, well, that's a certain level of empowerment. But it's a very low level. So this is where it comes in our complete system of centering, occult gym practices, and of course, drawing in energies from huge energetic sources, which is what sigils are. You have all that energy there. You have to bring it into your life and make it work for your life specifically. But a wishing machine that has a dial on it is a complete misnomer. So if somebody's trying to sell you a machine, Josh Warren and others, that say you're wishing machines, well, they're not wishing machines. It's a 9-dial radionic unit, which of course was based on my very old technologies that were out about 30 years ago, using my tuning capacities as well. Of the ways and instructions. But that's not a wishing machine. You're using a radionic machine. Now, this is strictly done to as a marketing ploy, because what are you going to call something? Radionics is boring. Oh, you want a wishing machine. But wishing machines don't have dials, and you don't see as many of these out there anymore. They were very popular at one time, but they have kind of faded. We are going to produce a new type of wishing machine that will be coming out soon. So this is all scheduled as a whole line of different technologies will be coming out soon. But all of this takes a lot of work and time. People have no idea how much work goes involved and the costs and everything else involved. So putting that aside, but understanding what a wishing machine is. So everybody should get Mind Machines You Can Build. Read that book written by this, basically as far as I'm concerned, he's a pseudoscientist, but in the scientific world, he's official. So the whole idea is that a wishing machine is something that doesn't have dials. You generally doesn't have handles or anything else, and may not even have an antenna on it. But we have always, IGOS I should say, has always have made very high quality machines that are encompass the more physical and of course the energetic only. So don't get fooled by these things. Be careful of it. A lot of these machines out there are just plain and simple junk. They're produced by people that have no backgrounds whatsoever. They know nothing about the field. They produce nothing. They're caught in silly understandings of this energies. They don't really get what's going on. And they are selling basically poorly made, poorly produced junk out there. There are many things you have to do to make a good wishing machine, and you need a real good amplifier, and they don't know how to use these either. So you've got to have a really good amplifier. They've got to be, on most instances, have to be electric powered. If they're not, you are really decreasing your empowerments. Now, it's getting a non-electric machine does create a pattern, but it's kind of just an expensive one-dimensional pattern. You do get a certain amount of energy because you have a physical pattern that is not just printed on paper, meaning you have dials and other things. So you do get it, but they are 70% less powerful than an electric unit if that's amplified properly. So you're getting a very weak unit when you use non-electric. But non-electric units have been used for years successfully. But you got to remember, you're going to have a much higher failure rate. You're going to be difficult to break through, very blocked areas in your life because you just don't have that push. And this has been verified over many years of how the electric units, for whatever reason, tend to break through. Well, it's not for every reason. I mean, that's what a lot of experts say. But the point is that amplifiers do amplify these subtle energy physics informational energetic fields, and they do it at a high level. So again, it's the combining in with physical components that produce these non-physical results at a higher, more powerful level. So wishing machines are something that have to be made correctly to get really serious results from. You have to know what you're doing, and the problem is most people are making very simplistic, basic items. Now, these are better than nothing, and I guess if they're cheap enough, they're worth having, especially if you're on a budget. But, you need to invest in something that has value. The problem with the world today is we are really going against really negative energies of a very high level. And if you don't have a lot of energy to break through, you're just not going to work. The other thing is do you want to invest in something like that when you can just get yourself a symbolic machine? Again, this is demonstrated and giving you the pattern in My Machines You Can Build. It's all there. You can, and I'll put a link down below for those that want to buy this book used. It can be expensive. You can find it on the web, as I said, if you do a search for it, and probably get it for free. As I said, the author is dead, and it's basically, it's in the public domain. I mean, there's nobody to pay royalties to once someone dies. So the whole idea is that this is very important for people to know and not to get sucked in by these people that are out there promoting this stuff that have absolutely no backgrounds whatsoever. I mean, ghost tour operators. I mean, really. I mean, the low level. And be careful, people, who you buy from, and the tools that you use carry their energetic signature. If they're goofballs, if they have problems, if they're involved with negative people, possibly even Satanists, well, guess what, people? That energy is coming into your life. You are handling and using subtle energy products. You have to be very careful who you get them from, because you're taking on their energies. And while something may work okay for you initially, remember, those negative energies, those Satanists who permeate this field of radionics out there, you are taking in and being affected by their energies, as well as their negative energies, like so many orgone devices that pull in, they're orgone accumulators. They're accumulating energy from the atmosphere, which is really highly toxic. So do you want to use something like that? Well, it's not really advisable to accumulate energy from the atmosphere. It has to be a higher level of energy. Things like tachyons don't hold negative energies because they're moving so fast. And there are other things that you can use that don't accumulate necessarily energies or program, like quartz crystals. Well, you program energy into it, and they do pick up energies, and you do have to clear them out. But they are not, they're accumulated from what you're putting into a machine, let's say, but they're not accumulating from the atmosphere, which we live in a highly radionic, toxic atmosphere. Chernobyl leaks, all of the French nuclear power plants are leaking. The Japanese are now dumping water into the ocean that is toxic. It goes on and on and on of what's happening to this poor planet by the ignorant scum that are out there destroying everything. And the point is that if you deal with a lot of these negative people who are not really achieving much and selling you a bunch of junk under false pretenses. So if someone's selling you a dial machine and calling it a wish machine, well, that's completely wrong. What else are they doing wrong? Well, I'll tell you what else they're doing wrong. Every single thing they do is wrong. Until next time.